Hey there guys, it's Mr. Herbst here, and today my focus is going to be on the skeletal system. Now, there are two types of skeletons. The first kind is called an exoskeleton. You may have heard of this before. The word exo means out or outside. Now, organisms that have an exoskeleton or a skeleton on the outside of their body are things like insects, bees, ants, butterflies, whatnot. Also crabs. Crabs have an exoskeleton. Now, the important thing to understand about an exoskeleton is that organisms that have them have to molt, which means that they are going to shed their skeleton on the outside and they are going to produce a new layer of skeleton which will allow them to grow. This organism right here is molting. This is its old skeleton, this is its new skeleton, and over time that will change back to brown and eventually become its whole new skeleton. Now, the other type of skeleton is called an endoskeleton. Endo means inside or in. Organisms that have a skeleton on the inside, things like frogs, sharks, and that's right, one of my favorite scientists right here is Bill Nye, but he is standing in and representing human beings. Human beings have an endoskeleton. Skeleton is on the inside. So, some basic functions of the human skeleton. There are 5 major functions. One of those is to protect vital organs. The rib cage protects, your heart, your lungs, and your skull, protects your brain. The next is to provide a site where muscles can attach. Muscles attach and allows us to move. A third function is to support the body so we can stand up. Without our skeleton, we would be little blobs moving around on the floor. I really hope that I never have to see that, but just imagine what it'd be like if we did not have a skeleton. Bones also serve as a storage unit for ions, particularly calcium. We'll talk about what that really means in a second. Also, one of the fifth and most major functions is that bones are a site where blood is produced. Blood cells such as white blood cells and red blood cells and platelets are all produced in bone marrow. So, 5 major functions: protection, muscle attachment, support, storage, and also creation of blood cells. Now, I'm going to focus a little bit for a second on bone physiology. A lot of people are familiar with what bones are made out of. They're made out of calcium, but a lot of people are not familiar that there are actually 2 types of cells that allow our bones to, that develop our bones. One of those types of cells is called an osteoblast. An osteoblast is a cell that creates new bone from calcium salts. So it lays down new bone. Laying down new bone or developing new bone is a process called ossification. So producing new bone is made by these cells called osteoblasts. Now, in your bones, you also have these cells called osteoclasts, and those break down bone. And you may be wondering, why on earth would you want to break down bone? Bones seem pretty important. Why would you want to break them down? Well, it just so happens that our nerves and our muscles need calcium in order to work. That means, so basically, our nerves and our brain need calcium in order to work. If we didn't have calcium, our brains would not we wouldn't be able to think. And so it's very important that we have a certain level or concentration of calcium in our blood. And so if you haven't eaten in a while, your body says, well, hey, we got to get that level of calcium back up into the blood, back where a good normal level. So where's the first place we turn to get more calcium? What has a lot of calcium in our bodies? Our bones. So the osteoclasts break down a little bit of bone and put calcium back into the blood. Now, it's not like they break down all the bones, but they break down enough just to put the calcium levels in the blood back up. Now, the issue is later on in your life, your body becomes sort of bad at producing new bone. And so your bones begin to break down, and that's when we get that disease called osteoporosis. Osteoporosis, porous means, a lot of holes. Osteo, the root word osteo means bone. So that's where the word osteoporosis comes from. We'll focus on osteoporosis in class. I want to talk for a second a little bit about bone anatomy. There are several parts to a bone. I'm going to focus on a long bone. A long bone is something called, an example of a long bone would be your humerus, which is your upper arm bone, or your femur. This bone right here is a femur bone. There are several important parts to a femur bone. First off, you have your solid bone. This is very dense calcium, very, very heavy part of your bone, and it encompasses the outer part of your bone, very hard, very dense, a lot of storage for calcium. Then on the inside of your bone, you have bone marrow. That is a place where we produce blood cells. Blood cells are made in the marrow. And then you also have spongy bone. Now you may be wondering, why is your bone spongy? Well, it's not necessarily spongy like it's squishy, it's just very porous. It has, on the inside of a lot of bones, there's these areas where they have a lot of like holes and it's very porous, looks like a sponge. And if you think about why that is, it's important for a bone to have that because otherwise the bone would be really, really, really heavy. So it's better to be lightweight, allows us to move around easier. So how do we get around that? Well, we have spongy bone. If a bone was made of solid calcium, remember calcium is, if you look on the periodic table, is a metal. And so metals are heavy. If your bone was made of entirely of calcium, your bones would be really heavy. So the spongy bone allows our bones to be a little bit lighter. Also, you have cartilage. Cartilage is, cartilage is like a cushion. Cartilage is an area between bones that allows for cushion. Once again, bones made of calcium are kind of like like rocks, really. And anytime you rub two rocks together, they make that grindy sound. That's not good. We don't want that grinding going on in our body. So what does our body do? Well, it puts a little layer of cushioning between our bones, which allows them to move better back and forth. And then finally, the last part of a bone is the ligament. Ligaments attach bone to bone. It's very similar to a tendon, except tendons attach bones to muscle, ligaments attach bone to bone. There are two types, or two divisions to our skeleton that we're going to focus on. The first kind is the axial skeleton. That is the midline of our body, consists of the skull, the vertebra, and the sternum and the ribs. Now, then the other part of the other division of our skeleton is the appendicular division, and that are the bones of the limbs. Think, use your root words here. Think of appendages, append or appendages. You have 4 appendages in your body, 2 arms and 2 legs. The appendicular part or division of your skeleton is your arms and legs. A little bit more specifically, there are 2 parts to your appendicular skeleton. Makes sense, right? You have arms and legs. The pectoral girdle is the bones of the shoulder. So we're talking about the arm bones, the shoulder, and the hands. Then you have the pelvic girdle, and that's the bones that attach to the pelvis. That supports the legs and the feet. So 2 divisions to the appendicular skeleton, the pectoral girdle and the pelvic girdle. The next thing we're going to do in class, guys, is label some major bones in our body. You'll be responsible for 20 to 30 of those bones. Anyway here, guys, I am going to go ahead and sign off. Make sure you go ahead and complete the Google form. You all have a nice day.